I stood about 10 feet from her when she said it. Getting drinks. She smirked like I was a valet, not her husband of 9 years. The same man she used to beg to come to these events because she said networking mattered. Now she could not be bothered to say my name. Just a lazy wave of the hand and a cheap laugh with her so-called work husband, while his hand rested a little too low on her back. I did not flinch. I did not blink. I just watched. My bourbon sat in my hand, untouched. It felt like a prop in a play I had been acting in all year. The supportive husband. The invisible man. But in that moment, I was not hurt. I was finished. And when I say finished, I mean something inside me shifted in a way that did not ache. It clicked. A cold, steady calm settled in my chest, the kind that shows up when some piece of hope finally dies. That is what hit me between the ribs while she fake laughed into another man's shoulder. She wore the perfume I bought her last anniversary. She said it made her feel confident. Have you ever watched your own wife flirt with 5 different men while pretending you do not exist? It is a strange kind of clarity. She looked amazing. I will give her that. A red dress. Hair curled. Jewelry I paid for. She knew she had an audience, and she loved it. But I was not the audience anymore. That night was not the beginning of the end. It was the first time I admitted to myself that the end had already happened. I just had not named it yet. And if you are still with me right now, you probably know the feeling I am talking about. Do me a small favor. If you are listening to this as audio, please tap subscribe. More than 90% of folks never do, but it keeps the people who make this going. Thank you. Now, back to the party. Her work husband was a guy named Brandon, senior vice president of strategy, married, 2 kids, fake smile, alligator shoes, the kind of guy who calls every man brother and every woman darling. I met him once at the company holiday party. He forgot me within 10 minutes. So when he pointed at me and asked my wife, "Where is your husband?" With that smug confidence, I almost laughed. She did not hesitate. "Getting drinks," she chirped, like I was an afterthought. She did not know I heard it. She did not care if I had. That is when it really landed. I was not a person in her world anymore. I was a ghost with a paycheck. I moved to the far end of the ballroom, near the terrace. From there, I could see everything. I watched her make her rounds. First Brandon, then Mark, the vice president of operations. Older guy. Wedding ring that never comes off. Big reputation for mentorship. She laughed at his jokes like she needed them to breathe. She leaned in like air lived right there on his shoulder. She danced. Not with me. Not even once. 3 songs went by. I counted 7 men she touched. Light and on purpose. A forearm here, a shoulder there. She worked the room like she was the show, and I was the guy refilling glasses in the back. The punch did not come from what she did. It came from the look she gave me when our eyes met. Like I was in her way. Like I was messing up her performance by standing there. So I did what I always do. I smiled. I nodded. I lifted my glass like I was a man who enjoyed being ignored. But I was not stuck. Not that night. While she spun in circles and soaked up compliments from men who would never wash a dish in our sink, I had something in my coat pocket. A plain envelope. Thick. Heavy with the truth. She swayed with Brandon. Her hand sat on his chest. His eyes were bright with ambition. I walked up slow. I tapped his shoulder. He turned. His grin was easy and smug. "Hey there, man," he said. I did not answer. I handed him the envelope. "What is this?" he asked, already sliding it open. Inside was a printed human resources complaint from a junior analyst. There were screenshot printouts of Slack messages between him and my wife. There was a grainy, time-stamped video from the Miami retreat. And, for good measure, a signed approval form from Brandon himself for a hotel suite upgrade that my wife expensed as a strategic planning session. He did not finish reading. He did not need to. The color drained from his face. "We are done," he said. Not to me. To her. Her head snapped around like she had been slapped. "Wait, Brandon, what is this?" He stepped back, like her touch burned. "I am not involved in this," he muttered, shaking his head. "This is career suicide." Her mouth opened and closed. The music kept going. The dancing kept going. But something ended right then. Her smile fell off, and it did not come back. The first time I noticed the pattern, she came home with a smug little grin and said, "If I have to hear one more compliment today, I am going to lose it." I smiled and asked what she meant. She said, "It is exhausting being everyone's favorite," and then she winked. Not at me. Through me. I let it go. One bad day, I thought. Long week. Too many egos at work. but it turned into a habit. Everything out of her mouth became a list of how desirable other people said she was. Jason said I should be running the department already. Ashley keeps asking me to present because she says I am the most polished. Brandon says no one else could pull off that red dress like me. You hear it once, that is pride. You hear it 100 times, that is advertising. I used to be the man she confided in, the one she turned to when she doubted herself. I realized I had become just another face in the crowd for her highlight reel. So I started paying closer attention. The first clue was a human resources policy folder. I work in a different field, but I know enough about compliance to spot a loophole when I see one. One evening, she brought her work laptop home and left it open while she showered. Right there on the screen was a draft update about rules for managers and their direct reports. She had typed a note in the margin: remove language about disclosure if the relationship is short-term or non-recurring. Too invasive. That was her wording, twice. What hooked me was not the suggested edit. It was the timing. She made that note 2 days after the Miami retreat. She had told me that trip was all breakout sessions and a little wine with the girls. I was not hunting for dirt that night. I was trying to calm my mind. I did not get that. I opened the shared drive for her department and clicked into the Miami retreat folder. Most of it was ordinary, portable document format agendas, team photos, the kind of stuff you skim and forget. But buried in a subfolder called temporary uploads, I found a 37-second clip that had not been moved yet. It looked like an accidental recording, someone's camera still running after a panel ended. A few people lingered in a corner. There was my wife, Emily, and Brandon. No words I could make out, but the body language was loud. Her hand on his thigh, his hand resting low on her back. The sort of moment that says everything without saying anything. I downloaded the file. Then I made a copy. Then I made 3 more. Next came the video call. She said she had to work late on a Sunday and needed to jump on a quick sync with her mentee. She used the office downstairs, which links to our smart television by default. She forgot that I set the television to send audio to my wireless headphones. She left the connection open. I heard maybe 2 minutes, just enough to catch Brandon ask, "So what are you wearing this time?" And Emily answer, "Something red, like Miami." The laugh that followed was not a laugh she shared with me anymore. I do not know what it says about me that I did not explode. I did not shout. I just sat there and felt the inside of me harden like wet concrete turning solid. I still did not plot revenge. Not then. I started collecting. Not to blow up her life. To keep a record of reality. When someone keeps gaslighting you, even your own gut starts asking for a second opinion. I became my own second opinion. I read her expense reports. There were recurring dinners with no client listed. There was a hotel suite for a local offsite that her boss never approved. There was a jewelry reimbursement labeled professional appearance enhancement. Funny thing, I had never seen that necklace before. I checked her shared calendar. One entry stood out. One-on-one strategy session. Brandon. Offsite. No notes. I took a screenshot. I looked up the junior analyst she often mocked. She said the kid was too sensitive and a human resources nightmare waiting to happen. Her name was Cassidy Klein. Cassidy left the company 3 weeks after Miami. On Glassdoor, someone posted an anonymous warning. Toxic senior leadership, strange favoritism, avoid the strategy group. I saved that too. Piece by piece, I built a folder. I named it for later. That was all. Not expose. Not evidence. Just for later. But keeping that record changed me. When you track the facts long enough, the shape of the story starts to appear. And the outline I saw was not my wife slipping away. It was my wife staging an exit. I had a front row seat and a program in my hand. Back to the ballroom. Emily was mid-laugh when I walked over, one hand on Brandon's shoulder, the other gripping a champagne flute like a prize. The dress caught the light and shimmered. She looked proud. Proud of being wanted. Not by me, but by the row of men who watched her like an open bar tab. I did not cut into the dance. Too theatrical. I waited for the beat between songs. Her eyes flicked to me with that look. No warmth, just mild annoyance, like I was a distant shore. Brandon noticed me first. "Hey man," he said, in that smooth voice he saves for interns and assistants. "You good?" I smiled and nodded. "Yes, I just wanted to hand you something." I gave him the plain white envelope, a little weighty. He hesitated. Maybe he thought it was one of those passive-aggressive husband notes, or, worse, a thank you card. He cracked it open and pulled the first page. On top was a formal human resources complaint filed 3 months earlier by Cassidy K., former junior analyst. The name was blacked out, but the description was not. Improper relationship between a vice president and a subordinate, power imbalance, inappropriate conduct during the Miami offsite. Under that came the screenshots. A Slack exchange, just enough to show intimacy. Loved last night, from her. A wink emoji from him. Another message stamped at 1:48 in the morning. Let us not use company chat for this. Laugh out loud. Then there was the photo. Grainy, but clear enough. Her arm around his neck, his hand low on her hip. Both of them alone in what was obviously a private suite that did not appear on any official schedule. Finally, the nail. A printed portable document format copy of the digital approval Brandon had issued for that very room. His name, his timestamp, his device identifier. I watched his confidence fall apart. It went from swagger to confusion, from confusion to fear, and then to a hard flash of understanding, not only of the papers in his hand, but of exactly what they meant. Of me. Where did you get this? Brandon asked. His voice was tight. I did not answer. His lips moved, but no sound came. He looked at Emily, then at me, then back at the papers in the envelope. We are done, he muttered. Not to me. To her. That was the moment Emily realized something was wrong. Wait, Brandon, what is going on? She said, stepping forward, trying to see the pages. He backed away. The music kept rolling, but the people nearest us began to notice. A few dancers slowed. One of the finance partners watched with a deep frown. Is this some kind of joke? She hissed. He did not answer. He let the envelope drop into a planter and walked off. She reached for it, hands shaking even as she tried to look composed. She flipped through the pages. The red in her face was not the glow of champagne anymore. She turned toward me. You seriously brought this here? I glanced around the room like I had not heard her. Brought what? She held up the envelope like it burned. You are really going to make a scene with fake. I cut her off with a shrug. I did not make a scene. You made a career choice. I brought the receipt. Her voice dropped. You have lost it. You are obsessed. This is harassment. There it was, the pivot. When the show starts to collapse, they reach for the fire extinguisher labeled gaslight. I nodded slowly. Sure. Just one thing. You might want to check who else got that envelope. She froze. She did not know that 2 other copies had gone out that night. One to the head of compliance. One to Brandon's wife. No confrontation. No spectacle. Just quiet timing. Emily did not say another word. She stood there, scanning the room for anyone else holding an envelope. Her smile was gone. It did not return. Monday morning rang through the building like a tuning fork in a cathedral, low and steady, a hum of tension no one could quite name yet. The spring gala was still fresh in everyone's mind. Photos were already online, polished faces, practiced captions, little messages with the hashtag Stronger Together and the hashtag Spring Synergy. Beneath the curated gloss, something curdled. By 9:42 in the morning, the head of compliance had an envelope on his desk. By 10:17, he was not alone. Human resources was looped in. Legal too. They did not rush. That is not how these things work. They moved in waves. Quiet calendar holds. Quick check-ins. Friendly notes asking about availability. At 11:02, Brandon's calendar flipped from green to out of office. By noon, his badge had been temporarily disabled for security updates. Then the whisper began, not loud and not direct, but everywhere. It slid through break room glances and awkward pauses. People who used to greet Emily with cheek kisses and champagne giggles now offered tight smiles and very full schedules. The biggest whisper came from inside her own home, though she did not know it yet. Brandon's wife, whom Emily used to dismiss as a basic public display of affection zombie, had a copy as well. That woman, the one Emily liked to joke about, was also the head of recruiting. Her name sat right there on the company leadership page, smiling, poised, professional. On Tuesday morning, she sent a simple internal email. Effective immediately, all recruitment and promotion processes involving the strategy department will be paused pending policy review. That is code, human resources code, legal code. We know. Emily was still pretending at home that night. She threw her keys down louder than necessary and said, without a greeting, "You really crossed a line." I did not answer. I was cooking, stirring a pot on the stove. She hovered behind me like a cold draft. They are overreacting, she said. Brandon is the one who pushed that off-site. Not me. I turned, wooden spoon in hand. Ah, yes. The accidental sweet upgrade. Easy to misunderstand. Her jaw tightened. This will blow over. Maybe, I said. You have always been good at making storms pass. She dropped her bag. You do not care what this does to my reputation. No, I said after a beat. I care what it does to the company's liability. You know how jumpy legal gets when compliance starts poking around expense reports. That night, she barely touched dinner. She spent 2 hours pacing and drafting an email to her vice president, then rewrote it 3 times before deleting it altogether. Tuesday morning, her calendar looked emptier than I had ever seen it. No check-in with Clara. No one-on-ones. Even the regular team huddle was canceled. Moved to asynchronous, the note said. It was like someone had unplugged her from the firm's bloodstream. Her calls to her boss went unanswered. She left voicemails, cheerful at first, then passive-aggressive, then quiet. Her emails were opened but not answered. She checked Slack again and again. No direct messages. No, let us connect. For someone who built her identity on constant attention, the silence was thunder. And me? I did not gloat. I did not leave hints. I did not wave receipts around. I did not even mention the envelope. I just lived my day. Wake up. Shower. Breakfast. Work. Gym. Routine. I settled into it like a man choosing peace over argument. That evening, she sat at the kitchen table with her laptop open, eyes unfocused. Do you think I should call human resources? She asked, quiet now. I looked up from my book. Do you think they will answer? She stared at me. I went back to my book, and in that quiet she understood something simple and heavy. She was no longer driving this. The firm knew. They just had not told her what they were going to do. On Thursday night, my phone lit up with Clara's name while I sat on the porch with a cold, amber drink. Condensation slid down the glass like it had somewhere better to be. For 3 full seconds I thought about letting it ring out. Clara was not my friend. She was Emily's friend, conference room confidant, brunch buddy, wine on Wednesday partner. She once called me Mr. Quiet at a company dinner and laughed like she had paid me a compliment. I answered. On the other end, Clara exhaled like she had just climbed 10 flights of stairs. I said nothing. I was not going to call, she started. Her voice sounded raw, none of the usual smug shine. But I have been watching this, and I cannot stomach it anymore. I let the silence stretch. If she wanted to cut into it, she could make the first incision. She crossed the line, Clara said. Honestly, she did not even pretend there was a line. Neither of us said Emily's name. We did not need to. I thought Emily and Brandon were just close, she went on. Everyone did at first. But then the joke started. The comments. Even the interns, kids who have been here 3 weeks, called Brandon her non-husband husband. A moth circled the porch light. I felt a twist of secondhand shame I had not asked for. Clara kept going. It is not just Brandon. She is reckless. She cuts people down in meetings. Bullies anyone who pushes back. Rewrites team credits to inflate her part. She got Cassidy blacklisted after Miami. Said she was too emotional to be client-facing. You know what Emily said after Cassidy quit? One less problem to manage. She said it in front of everyone. My hand tightened on the glass. She acts like she is bulletproof, Clara said. Like she can bend human resources because she wrote half the policies. But after Monday, the air shifted. People are talking. Quietly, but they are talking. I could hear her fidget with something. Probably that infinity symbol necklace she wears. Emily once said, she is the only person who can make eternity look cheap. It came back to me now, bitter and small. The board heard, Clara added, lowering her voice. I know for a fact one of the directors brought it up on the Wednesday call. They used the phrase culture review. That is code for someone is about to be fired, and we are rehearsing the public relations line. I still did not speak. I did not want to be part of the gossip, even if it matched what I already knew. I did not want to make this call, Clara said. But you deserve to know what people are really saying. The house of cards is swaying. She is not untouchable anymore. She paused. Then she said something I did not expect. You deserve better, and the company deserves less of her. That landed different. Not because it was kind, but because it was true. Emily had turned herself into a liability in heels. And Clara, the last loyal echo chamber, sounded like a person watching a crack spread from the inside. What do you want me to do with this, Clara? I asked. I do not want anything, she said. I just could not stay quiet. I know you have been quiet long enough. Before we hung up, she said one more thing, soft and reluctant. She had a reputation for being the sharp one, the one who always lands on her feet. Lately she is all edge. No footing. No friends left to catch her when she falls. I ended the call and sat in the dark for a while, letting the shadows stretch across the porch like they were making space for something new. It hit me then. Some silences do not come from peace. They come from evacuation. She was being evacuated one ally at a time. And now even Clara had stopped playing nice. Emily came home at 10:43 post-meridium. The security camera caught it, heels clicking against the stone walk. Hair still perfect from whatever dinner or damage control she had just left. She reached for the keypad, nails tapping as she punched in the 6-digit code. Red light. She tried again, slower this time. You could feel the flicker of unease even through the lens. Red light. She stared at the keypad, then looked up into the camera. Instinct, or guilt, or both. She dug in her purse for her phone, paused, then pressed the doorbell twice. I did not answer. She stood there for a full minute, then walked around to the side entrance. Same result. When she came back to the front door, the confident posture had wilted into something stiffer and cautious. Finally, she used the emergency key. Inside, the house was dark. Not a going-to-bed dark, but a staged quiet, like even the appliances were holding their breath. Only the study glowed, soft white, like a set someone forgot to strike after the show ended. On the desk, centered and neat, sat a navy blue folder. Matte finish. No label. Hello, she called once. No answer. She stepped in, heels muted by the carpet, and opened the folder. Inside, a notarized asset separation agreement. A termination notice removing her from the lease. A list of banking and investment accounts already redistributed under my name. And one final note, typed and signed. All contact going forward is to be directed to my legal counsel, whose information is listed below. Do not attempt informal negotiation. This is no longer your home. She did not scream. She did not throw anything. She just stood there like the air had been pulled out of her veins. Because this was not a fight. This was not theater. This was closure, carried out with a steady hand. And she knew it. She understood that all the things she had counted on, my patience, my quiet, my willingness to wait things out, had hardened into something she could not bend anymore. She looked around the study, probably noticing the gaps for the first time. The framed wedding photo was gone. The shelf where my books used to live sat empty. The best husband mug had been replaced with a plain glass. I had left the house earlier that day with one duffel bag and a scheduled lock change. No announcement. No scene. She walked upstairs and opened the bedroom closet. Half the hangers were bare. My suits, my jackets, my shoes gone. In the bathroom, her toothbrush stood alone. On the nightstand, a single envelope, keys drop-off location, a map clipped to it. She sat on the edge of the bed, still in her heels, staring at her own reflection in the black television screen. She stayed there for an hour. She did not cry, not once. This was not heartbreak. This was powerlessness. She had built a version of herself that was always 2 steps ahead, strategic, admired, untouchable. But now she was not ahead. She was outside. Control had slipped through her fingers like loose change on a lobby floor. The meeting invite landed with no subject line. 8:30 any meridium, sharp. All capital letters. Mandatory review panel. Conference room B. Sent by Human Resources. Marked confidential. She told herself it had to be about Brandon, that he had panicked and said her name to save himself. In her head, she was there as a witness. Maybe even a shield. That was how she saw herself in storms. Strategic, above the mess. In the loop, but never in the sights. She wore all black that morning. A power look. Sleek bun, clean lines, silver studs instead of her usual hoops. She skipped breakfast. She did not speak a word as she left the apartment we once shared. She slipped out like a soldier going to the line. She walked in at 8:28, not early enough to look eager, not late enough to look scared. Her smile froze the second she stepped into conference room B. There was no Brandon, no friendly faces, no coffee tray, just 4 people across from a single empty chair. From left to right, Jenna from Human Resources, who used to laugh at her hallway jokes. Philip from Compliance, stern, already typing. Robert from Internal Audit, wearing that blank, neutral look that means, this is not personal. It is procedural. And finally, Danielle Lewis, head of legal, Emily had never been in a meeting with Danielle before. That detail alone told her this was not about Brandon. This was about Emily. They let her sit. They let her adjust the chair. They let her cross her legs and place her notebook neatly on the table, as if any of it would matter. Then Danielle slid a manila folder across the table. "Ms. Reynolds," she said, voice calm but sharp as a razor. "This document outlines the findings of an internal review regarding misconduct under Section 8.3 of the Ethics and Conduct Policy, which you co-authored 2 years ago." Nobody in the room missed the irony. Danielle continued. "The review includes evidence of an undisclosed personal relationship with a report in your chain of command, misuse of discretionary expense privileges, and clear instances of retaliatory behavior toward a junior staff member who submitted a complaint." Emily's mouth twitched. She opened the folder and skimmed. Her eyes landed on a highlighted paragraph. Her hand tightened on the page. "This is ridiculous," she said, trying to laugh it off. "Brandon was never my direct." "Brandon Walker was placed on administrative leave this morning," Danielle cut in, "pending review of his approval history and travel expenses." Emily blinked once. Jenna spoke next, almost gently, like tossing a brick wrapped in velvet. "We have also initiated a broader audit of all strategy team engagements for the past fiscal year." Then came the last blow. "Effective immediately," Danielle said. "You are being placed on leave pending the outcome of this review. Your access credentials will be deactivated by noon. Please submit all company devices and files to information technology before leaving the premises." Emily leaned back, eyes flicking from face to face, hunting for a weak link, an ally, anyone. There were none. Not even Clara. She tried that confident little smirk she used in presentations when she wanted to swat away an inconvenient slide. "You cannot be serious," she said. "I have been with this company for 8 years. I led 3 successful expansions. I trained half the women on this panel." "No one is questioning your prior contributions," Robert said without looking up. "But the company is not exempt from its own governance standards." There it was. The sentence with no heartbeat. Not feelings. Not loyalty. Not legacy. Governance standards. She stood slowly, smoothed her blouse, and took a breath that sounded more like a gasp. They said nothing else. And as Emily walked out of conference room B, she finally understood what I had known for months. This was not betrayal. This was accountability. Long overdue. The unraveling did not arrive in one dramatic blow. It came in thin, quiet strips, like a shredder feeding her identity one page at a time. She stepped out expecting some grace. Maybe a last cup of coffee in the break room, a chance to box up her things with a little dignity. She got none of that. Her badge flashed red at the elevator. The intern at the front desk handed her a sealed envelope with a return checklist. Her company phone buzzed once in her purse, then went dark. By the time she reached her car, the security application was deactivated. Her email login replied with invalid credentials. The Slack workspace announced, "This user no longer exists." At 3:04 post-meridium that same day, her profile on LinkedIn, where she used to boast about leading disruptive growth initiatives across international verticals, shifted to a stark line, currently seeking new opportunities in strategy and operations. No post, no speech, just a plain white flag. At 6:17 post-meridium, her severance packet, which had been prepared in draft, was marked on hold pending outcome of formal review. That meant no check, no continuation of benefits, no kind memo to soften the landing. The irony was sharp. She had bragged about her golden parachute 100 times. Worst case, she always said she would take a big check and 6 months off. Turns out parachutes do not open when you jump with a lit match in your hand. She tried calling me that evening from Clara's number. I did not answer. I watched it ring while I ate takeout on the couch, feet up, remote in hand. The voicemail she left was 2 parts apology and 1 part strategy. "I know you are angry, but we need to talk. This affects both of us. There are still things we need to figure out. Call me back, please." She used we, like there was still a we. She said figure out, like there was anything left for her to negotiate. An hour later, she sent an email. Subject line, "Please read." The body said, "I know things got out of hand. I made mistakes. I can admit that now. But the way you have handled this is scorched earth. We are not enemies. We do not have to burn everything down." I did not reply. I forwarded it to my attorney with a short note. Add to file. No response needed. The same company that once printed her quotes on glossy posters, innovation through ownership, started scrubbing her name like she had never been there. Her team, reassigned. Her mentorship program, suspended. Her name, removed from upcoming conference panels. By the weekend, an internal memo went out. Effective immediately, all leadership titles in the strategy division are under review. Please direct questions to the interim team lead. No mention of Emily. No thank you. No goodbye. The hallway where her team's vision board used to hang was cleared and replaced with a generic landscape print and a harmless quote from someone safe. Steve Jobs, I think. She tried one more call, this time from a blocked number. I picked up and said nothing. I let her breathe into the silence for a few seconds, then I hung up. Because what she did not understand, and maybe still does not, is that I never wanted payback. I wanted relief. I wanted out. The world she built to belittle me, the career she wore like a crown, was caving under the weight of her own pride. She torched the bridge. I only passed out the matches. The courtroom was smaller than you would expect. No theater. No yelling. Just dull gray carpet, bad fluorescent lights, and the faint smell of burnt coffee drifting from the hall. My soon-to-be ex-wife came in like she was still on a stage at an investor summit. Crisp navy blazer, hair set to perfection, that same empty smile she saved for networking. She did not look at me once. Her attorney, a mid-tier bulldog in a too-tight tie, started the pity parade. My client, he sighed, devoted her best years to this marriage. She provided emotional support and career guidance and helped create a home environment that allowed Mr. Keene to succeed professionally. I almost laughed. He pushed on, asking the court for equitable distribution, arguing she should have a portion of our shared accounts, the car, and the condo. He claimed she had helped me build my consulting career by offering insight from her corporate experience. Never mind that she did not bother to learn what I actually did for a living until year 3. My attorney said nothing until the judge prompted him. Then he opened a slim black folder, took out a single printed page, and slid it forward. Your Honor, he said, we would like to submit a signed copy of the respondent's employment contract, including Clause 9.2 under Ethics and Professional Boundaries. This clause, co-authored and ratified by the respondent herself, explicitly defines undisclosed personal relationships with direct reports as grounds for termination and ethical misconduct. The judge took the document without looking up. My ex-wife's lawyer frowned. We are not here to litigate her career. My lawyer nodded, steady as ever. Of course not, he said. But her own contract defines ethical violations as a breach of personal responsibility. And our prenuptial agreement contains a fidelity and conduct clause that is tied directly to professional standing. That was when the judge raised an eyebrow and looked right at Emily. You wrote the clause, he said. It was not a question. It was a fact. She shifted in her seat and folded her arms like she could hide behind the paper trail she created. Then you knew better, the judge added, flat as a gavel. Silence. What followed was clean and precise. Her claim to the shared brokerage account, denied. Half the condo's value, denied. It was in my name alone, purchased after the marriage with inherited funds. The Range Rover she liked to parade in team photos, registered to my limited liability company, title held by the business trust. The court ruled that, because of her documented professional misconduct and the prenuptial clause she once joked was legal fluff, she had no legal claim to the bulk of our assets. Her lawyer tried to pivot into dignity considerations. The judge just stared at him like he had asked if the courtroom served brunch. I see no reason to reward intentional ethical failure, the judge said. It was over in less than 20 minutes. Emily did not cry. She did not look at me. She walked out stiffly, eyes glassed over, shoulders squared as if she could still convince someone that she was winning. But the hallway was empty. No friends. No team. No Clara. Just her and air. I stayed in the courtroom for a moment. Not to savor it, but because I knew that once I stepped through those doors, I would never have to pretend to admire her again. She used to say contracts were about control. The irony was simple. Hers just handed control to me. The building did not erupt. It just stopped breathing. 3 weeks after court, her world gave one last twitch and then went still. It did not come from human resources or compliance or the board. It came from the one person she had never accounted for, Brandon's wife. For months, That woman stood politely in the background at holiday parties. She smiled in photos and faded at happy hours. She was never truly quiet, though. She was paying attention. Then she filed, not for divorce, that had already been handled in private with steady hands, but for damages. Civil suit title: Marital misconduct with workplace retaliation and complicity by supervisory staff. Translation: You slept with my husband, you crushed a whistleblower's career, and you hid behind your title to do it. It hit the firm like a virus. Legal scrambled. The board called emergency meetings. The investors, who are allergic to scandal, started whispering the words that freeze corporate blood: public liability. Emily thought she could manage it. Even after the divorce, even after administrative leave, she believed she could talk her way out. A closed-door apology. Strategic tears. A convenient scapegoat. But this was no longer inside the building. This was litigation with teeth and media oxygen. Then the real hammer fell. A conservative institutional investor with majority voting power sent a short letter, one paragraph, no decoration. Pending resolution of the civil suit against executive leadership, we request temporary suspension of all equity vesting and demand an independent audit of departmental conduct codes. By Friday, a restructure was announced. Her role would be sunset. And then came the final board meeting. Not a court, not a video call. A real room with 12 people and a polished table. The board chair, a woman who had built 3 companies, buried 2 husbands, and smiled like she ate secrets for breakfast, looked at Emily and asked one thing. What did you make him do? 6 words. Flat. Measured. No anger. Just a clean request for accountability. Here is the twist. I was in the back, beside the assistant with the notepad. No title. No suit. Just me. Emily did not know I had been invited. She turned and saw me. For a second, her face folded. Not panic, recognition. The kind that says, he has been here the whole time, watching. She opened her mouth. I said nothing. Not a word. Not a nod. I watched her like she watched me at the gala, sipping champagne, laughing, dancing with men who were not me. Only now there was no music, no smiles. Just 12 sets of eyes waiting for her to explain why a senior vice president needed to be erased from the org chart to contain her mistakes. There was no explanation. Because there was none. She built the fire and lit the fuse. I simply stopped stomping it out. The chair gave her a beat, then closed the folder. This meeting is concluded. You will receive formal notice of separation by close of business today. By the end of the week, her name disappeared from the directory. By Monday, the company released a one-line statement. We thank Ms. Reynolds for her service and wish her well in her future endeavors. No LinkedIn post. No farewell brunch. Just a vanished profile and a silence so plain that even the interns noticed it. She imagined it would end in scandal, maybe in redemption. It did not. It ended in understanding. She had handed me every match, every message, every clause, every choice. And I just let the fuse burn until she ran out of excuses. It is funny. After all the spin, the meetings, and the lies, the thing that finally brought her down was not rage or revenge. It was reality. And it came in quiet, like I always knew it would.